Hi, my name is Orlando Bishop, and we at the Kaleidoscope Group, in light of all that's been going on in the world, have noticed that there's a real theme in some of the conversations that we're having with each other, that we're having with other people, and it's something along the lines of, I'm tired. I know I'm tired. And as we thought about what we wanted to say in the midst of all that we're going through as a country, we just want to say to those of you who've been out there doing the work, to DEI practitioners who've been doing the work, to the folks in organizations who don't have a title but who've been taking on the mantle of making sure that there's diversity and making sure that people feel included and making sure that we've moved toward equity, that we're trying to make organizations better and cities better and states better and our nation better and the world better. I want you to know, if you too are feeling tired, we want you to know that if you too are feeling tired, that we see you and we hear you, and we know that you're out there doing that critical work that is often resisted and underappreciated and underfunded, and we want you to know that we are in that struggle with you right here, right now, to make sure that we continue toward better organizations and better cities and better states and a better nation and a better world. So this was something that I wrote from the heart that we would like to share with you. Grief. So much grief. I love boxing. I love to watch. I love to train. I love to spar. I also love to watch documentaries about great fights and great fighters. And among my favorites is a doc about the soul-stirring, blood-spilling, crowd-thrilling trilogy of fights between Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti. There's a bittersweetness as the story of the fights and the friendship between the fighters is told, because Arturo Gatti is no longer with us, and it's hard to watch as people grapple with that reality, even as they share their memories of a beautiful chapter in boxing history. Grief. So much grief. We may joke about it, but 2020, I don't know that I've ever expressed my condolences so many times to so many people in so little time. Fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, childhood friends, beloved celebrities. I remember so clearly when our national coronavirus death tally reached 1,000 and we all acknowledged the grim milestone. Last I checked, we're doing that daily. Grief. So much grief. And while we face mind-bending numbers of a global pandemic and national crisis, we've descended into even greater chaos and despair, gripped by the horrific murder of George Floyd. And our response? More destruction, more death, and more grief. So much grief. Personally, 2020 has been a nightmare. It's astounding to consider how recently things were normal. Remember normal? I was driving my kids to school and I was coaching my non-biological kids through the first steps of our high school basketball program, and I was working on a pretty big writing project that was going pretty well. And my big cousin Fedming, he was still a WhatsApp message away. Then on January 30th, I got a text, and he wasn't. Grief. So much grief. Mickey Ward tells the story of Arturo hitting him with a shot that knocked Mickey down and silly. He describes fighting on, though he was completely out of it. I rewatched the doc recently and smiled, knowing, metaphorically, at least, exactly what he was describing. You're on your feet and doing the things everyone around you expects you to do, but you know more than you dare let on that you are out on your feet and don't even fully know where you are. I'm sure I looked like Orlando, standing in front of his laptop, fighting, writing, but I didn't know where I was. And I couldn't make sense of the words. I couldn't read the pages I'd written, and the words just sort of sat there, refusing to be full sentences, much less coherent ideas. A week passed, then a month, then two, and it hit me that the last time I finished anything related to the project was February 3rd, and given I'd gotten the news about Fedming on January 30th, well, that didn't really seem like a coincidence to me. Grief. So much grief. I see your posts, I see your comments, and my friends, I feel your grief. And I'm so sorry. Whether you grieve a young woman who inexplicably chose to go too soon, or a father who lived a beautiful life only to depart during these horrific times, or a man snatched from his family and community by a societal scourge that has gone on too long, or over 100,000 American deaths due to the coronavirus, or over 370,000 deaths worldwide from the same, or our democracy itself. I am so sorry. Grief. So much grief. Mickey goes on to tell the story of the rest of that round. You see, Arturo blasted him with another right hand and boom! Somehow, he woke me up. Arturo knocked the sense out of him, then right back into him in the same round. Over the weekend, I took a moment. I woke up early, made a cup of coffee, and I looked out my window at my quiet slice of a city I knew had been burning just a few hours earlier. And I just took a moment, and it hit me that my grief was physically in my way. In all that stillness, it was there at my solar plexus. I took my first truly deep breath in months and felt a sensation through my chest and belly I can only compare to the relief of unclenching your jaw. And I went and got my laptop and I opened the document, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I could read it. The words formed sentences and the sentences formed ideas I could follow. I knew I wasn't okay, but I was a lot more okay than I'd been only a day before. Grief. So much grief. Last night I planted my feet and prepared to fight. I stayed up to the wee hours transcribing conversations and connecting dots. Then like a flash, boom! It hit me. I'd been working on the project when I got the news about Fermin, my big cousin. Every time I went to pick up where I left off, every time confusion inexplicably replaced comprehension and creativity. Grief. So much grief. But this morning, I can write again. This morning, I'm not okay, but I can write again. And this morning, the first thing I wanted to write was a message to all of you in mourning, wherever and wherever you mourn, to let you know it's okay. It's okay when you get knocked down, when life lands big shots, that you're not okay, that you stumble and blink and shake your head to regain your senses, even when none of that seems to work. It's okay to be in mourning. It's okay to grieve. It's okay that you can't write, whatever that looks like in your life. Sometimes you just have to commit to returning to your laptop. Stubborn words be damned. Sometimes surviving the round is a win when you are facing grief. So much grief. And I don't know who needed to hear this today, who missed a graduation or a prom, who just needs a hug, who lost a spouse or a child or a parent or a friend, who lost the innocence of viewing this country in one way or patience with a lifetime of seeing it a different way entirely. But as soon as I could write again, I knew I needed to write this to you. Fight on. Even when there is grief. So much grief. Fight on.